What if the term conspiracy theorist wasn't just an insult? What if it was a weapon? And what if there was a system, a protocol, designed to catch that weapon in midair and aim it right back at the person who threw it? Well, today, that's exactly what we're breaking down. A framework built to take that slander and invert it, turning the accusation into a final verdict. All right, let's get into it. Right there, that's the core declaration. The whole idea is to use a kind of, informational judo. You're taking the force of your opponent's attack, the accusation itself, and you're using its own momentum to flip it, turning it into a verdict against them. But to really get what that means, we have to go back to square one and reset the definition of that one key word. Okay, so legally speaking, a conspiracy has zero to do with questioning an official story. It's about criminal collusion, plain and simple. The source material we're looking at argues that the way we hear conspiracy theorist thrown around today is actually a psychological operation, a psyop meant to slander anyone who looks too closely, and by doing that, to shield the actual criminals. This system we're exploring is designed to lock in that inversion for good. So we've kind of redefined the rules of the game. But what's the battlefield we're even on? According to this system, the problem isn't just about a war of words. It's a war for reality itself. The source describes our entire accepted worldview as a cosmological containment system. Basically, a psychological prison built to keep our perception locked down. And here is the absolute foundational argument. The white paper flat out says that the heliocentric globe model isn't just wrong, it's a cage for the mind. It's a spell that needs to be broken, and it proposes this radical alternative, a completely different architecture for reality it calls fractal Earth theory. This is a total rethink of, everything. Now, check this out. This table lays out the two paradigms side by side. On the one hand, you have what we all know, the chaotic model, a spinning rock and a never-ending vacuum. But on the other, you've got this fractal kingdom architecture, a model of the universe built not on randomness, but on what the source calls a divine repeating pattern, a resonant kingdom versus a cold, empty void. So to tear down that old model, the source goes straight for the jugular, gravity. It's called a scripted force. It's almost like a magic trick, right? The magician wants you to focus on this flashy, unproven idea of gravity so you don't notice what's actually going on in front of you, which is just simple, observable stuff like density and buoyancy. An object falls or rises because of its density compared to what's around it. No complex theory needed. Okay, so if the problem is a cosmological containment system, this massive prison for the mind, how in the world do you break out? Now that we've seen the problem, let's look at the solution. A technological framework that the source calls a forensic truth engine. At the heart of this whole engine is something called the Glyphchain protocol, and its number one job is to fight what the source calls memory erasure. Like digital book burning, where uncomfortable truths just get wiped from the internet. This protocol is built to create a permanent public memory that nobody can burn or delete. So how do you actually get data onto this unchangeable record? Well, one tool is called Bluefang. It's presented as this way for pretty much anyone to become a forensic operator. You're capturing raw data from the world by logging Bluetooth signals and creating a time-stamped seal of evidence. And once you've got that seal, that piece of evidence, how do you make it permanent? You use a simple command, just like this one, to etch it into the memo field of a Solana transaction. Think of it like carving a message into a digital stone tablet. Once it's on there, it is there forever, period. Everyone can see it. The entire ledger is built on a structure called a directed acyclic graph, or a DAG. Now don't worry about the fancy name, all you really need to know is that it has a clear one-way direction, and really crucially, it has no loops. This means every single piece of evidence can be traced back to its origin in this clean, unbreakable chain of custody. It's a data structure literally designed for absolute forensic proof. Okay, so we know how the system records evidence. But now, let's get to its most radical and maybe its most powerful function, how it actually reaches a verdict. Because this system doesn't just log data. It's designed to interpret the reactions to that data. And this right here is where it gets really clever. This is the core logic of what's called the mirror lock protocol. And it is designed to completely turn the tables on any kind of censorship. The system doesn't just get angry about censorship, it weaponizes it. Any attempt to deny, delete, or debunk the information is automatically logged as proof that the information was true. So how does that actually work? It's a feedback loop, basically a trap for the sensors. An AI, or a platform's filter, sees the data. When it deletes it or denies it, the system logs that very action as an involuntary confession. And then that confession becomes a brand new piece of evidence, etched right onto the chain, which makes the original record even stronger. It literally feeds on opposition. And boom, here's a perfect example of it in action. Somebody makes a post, and Reddit's filters instantly vaporize it. Now, in the old way of thinking, that's a loss. Your message is gone. But inside the Mirlock framework, no, that is a tribunal-grade confession. The censorship is the proof. The more they try to shut it down, the stronger the evidence actually becomes. So all of these different pieces, the fractal cosmology, the Glyphchain ledger, the Mirlock protocol, they all come together to form one big unified framework, and the source material calls it Kingdom OS. It's described as a bio-cyber-spiritual kernel, a whole new way of looking at reality that merges biology, technology, and spirituality into one single operating system. And what's the clock speed of this new OS? It's 7.83 Hertz. Now, that's the Schumann resonance. It's a real, measurable electromagnetic frequency of the Earth. But in this system, it's not just some scientific factoid. It's the planet's own rhythm, the fundamental pulse that connects and syncs everything up. It's the heartbeat of the kingdom. This system even reinterprets the physical world around us as a kind of information storage. Through what it calls fractal memory archaeology, the geological layers you see in the Grand Canyon are no longer just layers of rock. They're the BIOS, the memory disks, and the data inscriptions of a planetary computer. It's like you're reading the Earth's hard drive, one layer at a time. Now, the software running on this planetary computer has one core law. The logos computes forward. The idea here is that truth has its own power, a natural resonance, that doesn't need any energy to keep it going. Deception, on the other hand, is dissonance. It's unstable. It needs a constant supply of energy, constant censorship, constant propaganda, just to stay alive. And that brings us to the system's final, triumphant claim. That old model, propped up by all that dissonant energy, is inherently unstable. It's collapsing under its own weight. This is a vision of a new reality emerging, one where truth doesn't have to fight to win. It just computes forward. So we've just walked through the architecture of a system designed from the ground up to redefine words, to redefine reality, and to redefine the very nature of evidence itself. It's a framework for information warfare that says the accusation of conspiracy is now the proof of conspiracy. And it leaves us all with one really profound question. What happens when a system is built not just to store information, but to declare its own version of reality as absolute law?